Hi, and welcome to the second video in the self-talk series. This one we're focusing on positive self-talk. So negative self-talk tends to escalate negative energy, negative emotions, and get you in a place where you're starting to behave poorly, your little eyes are coming out, you're not living by your values because you've justified your behavior. So when you're taking a time out, or when you're managing a difficult conversation, or you're sitting alone thinking about your day, I like it if you actually went to positive self-talk. So positive self-talk is, of course, the opposite of negative. Instead of escalating your feelings, it tends to de-escalate any negative feelings. It tends to establish a sense of I'm okay. And in fact, that can be one of your self-talk pieces, is I'm okay. Right? If you're actually able to believe that regardless of what's going on around me, I'm going to be okay. I have people in my life that support me. I have people in my life that love me. I have gone through situations like this before. One of my favorite memes is, you've survived your worst day ever and you're still here, right? So all our worst days are behind us, and so we can actually know that we can make it, we can do it. And it's just a question of whether or not we're telling ourselves that story. And that story is actually really important. And we can think of a lot of different kinds of stories to tell ourselves. Things to notice about yourself. Wow, I'm feeling really uncomfortable right now. So acknowledging truth to self is positive self-talk. Wow, I don't feel comfortable. I need to calm down. I can breathe. I can listen, I can, I'm enough. I have the skill, I have the capability to move forward in a good way. And so when we're thinking about positive self-talk, we're thinking about, what are some of the characteristics of this? Well, typically, self-talk that's positive will be kind of coping type self-talk. There'll be affirmations. There'll be acknowledgements. It's a long word. And you'll be acknowledging the other person in your head. You'll be acknowledging yourself in your head. Noticing your feelings. Right? What's going on for me in my feelings? And when I'm noticing my feelings, I can go back and check my beliefs. Right? So some self-talk that's been helpful for me when I'm feeling a little overwhelmed is I'm okay. I can handle this. I can take a break if I need to. I can live by my values. Those sorts of things are going to help me manage my self-talk. So we're looking for good stories. And these are for, I, for you, and for we. So we're looking for ways of understanding other people's behaviors so that we are in fact telling stories that are helpful for us. So a good story is a helpful story. A helpful story is a story that helps us live by our values. Right? So if I believe it's important for me to be able to speak calmly and respectfully to my family, and I have beliefs that I end up yelling and saying mean things, those aren't helpful beliefs, those aren't helpful stories. If I have a story like, say, everybody's doing their best, right? People's intentions are often different than their impact, right? So I can disconnect the impact that their behavior is having on me from their intention. Because most people, here's a good story, most people are doing the best they can, right? The funny thing is the way our brains are set up, that when we're in a stressful place, it goes to the stress part of the brain. This is kind of what kept us alive all those years we were running away from tigers and bandits, and when the world was a much more dangerous place than it is here in North America. And we needed to have quick access to those negative learning experiences where we recognize and are hypervigilant for those things that go wrong. Nowadays, in our context, we need to remember that very few of those things that feel scary for us are actually life-threatening or even threatening to our person. Now, I'm not talking about ignoring abusive behavior or anything like that. What I am talking about is the fact that most of what we run into day to day isn't the kind of thing that we need to go to that, really stressful place in, and we can talk ourselves out of it. Another interesting thing is that when we're there, if we don't know a bit of information, our brain will supply it for us from our negative memory banks. And so it'll fill in the gaps by putting in negative bits. And so we begin to remember things not as they are, but as our brain finds consistent with previous negative experience. So when we're in conflict, we actually tend to interpret other people's intentions and behaviors through a negative lens, which is why we actually need to work at being positive when we're in conflict, and we need to work at finding the helpful story, right? So there's been a number of times where I've been involved in organizations where the negative behavior has been significant. And if I lived in a negative story space, I would not have survived working in those institutions. Instead, I chose very deliberately that I was going to tell helpful stories, good stories. And what that meant was that when somebody in the institution did things that didn't work for me, I thought about, okay, what could be true about that would allow me to go talk to them about it, that would allow me to feel confident that I could have a respectful conversation with them about that behavior and be open to their positive interpretation of it. Because remember, we judge ourselves by our intent and others by their behavior. And so we need to be very careful that we're going to hold a helpful story, regardless of what other people are doing. Because my self-control, my ability to live by my values is what matters to me. Other people can live by their values or not. I'm going to live by mine, and I want to have that positive, consistent impact with others. And so I'm going to kind of hold on to these sorts of thoughts. The I can thoughts, right? I can do it. I can handle this. I'm going to be okay. Because, you know what? Most of us watching this video are Canadian, not Cantadian. And so, try to stay in that frame of mind. I can. The impact of this, remember the last one, the impact, there was a whole bunch of stuff going on underneath when we did this. And what happens here is we stay resourced when we stay in this positive mindset, because we're not escalating our emotions, and we are able to kind of stay in that place where we're being kind of that big picture and being value-centered, right? Living by our values, having our behaviors be consistent with that. When we're able to stay in positive self-talk, our world is much more nuanced, right? Where it's okay to take responsibility for something and not feel like that's the end of the world. We can take responsibility for things and then make amends. Right? If we do behave poorly, we can fix that. If our intent isn't lead to the impact we want, then we can fix that. And all of this leads to a long-term positive development, the growth of a resourced adult, right? This big I way of being that allows us to be the people that we want to be, right? We want to be helpful. We want to engage in the world in a good way. We want to have a positive impact. And so positive self-talk, this storytelling, this narrative in our mind that's kind, right? That's compassionate. All these kind of positive ways of being, patient. All these things that allow us to be human, allow us to go through life. And you know what? We're okay. It's going to be okay. It's good enough. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to think about what it would be like to replace some of your negative self-talk with positive self-talk. What would it be like when you're meditating on your day or thinking about the conflict that you're in, if you try to stay in a place where you are being kind, compassionate, and patient? What is that like, and how does that change how you feel? right? Because these are all kind of the belief stuff, and it allows you to work through your world in a better way. And what I've been told by others is that when they do things this way, they tend to have a much easier life because they're not feeling negatively all the time, and so life just gets better. Thinking negative thoughts about others is essentially just taking poison in the hopes that they will suffer. We're the ones that suffer, so let's instead have good thoughts, good stories, helpful ways of being, so that we can enjoy our lives. Because ultimately, this is just about me having a better life. So take a moment, think about what this would be like. Think about the areas in your life where you're doing this, and whether you could expand that, whether you can grow the places in your life where this is your practice. Thanks for watching. Again, we'll pause the video, take some time to think about this, and your comments and thoughts are welcome.